This week we're going to be working on the concrete forms for the stem wall, which I'm going to be using insulated concrete forms, or ICFs, to do this. These are basically put in place over the top of the footers, and then we'll pour concrete in, and those will stay permanently as part of the foundation for the shop. Now, part of that discussion is that realistically, these don't have a lot of value for the shop because they're meant to be insulated for like your basements or your subfloor, for your basements or for crawl spaces, to help insulate that with the cold. With the shop, it doesn't really do that much, but with the high cost of lumber, to use concrete or use wood forms for the concrete proves to be more expensive than to actually use the ICFs. Plus, it gives me a great deal of practice using them and setting them up, and then pouring the cement before we get to the house, which requires a great deal more of these, plus some additional footing spaces for some short pony walls and some other things. So stay with us this week as we install ICFs. The ICFs are a modular system with corners and standard pieces that fit together kind of like Legos do. The center brackets are used to hold the rebar and rebar spacing, and then that is coupled together and then filled with cement and left in place permanently. The gaps that are in between the ICFs right now as I'm laying out the first row are there to make sure I get the distance. I'll take an individual block and then cut it in and fill those in as I go.
every day, and I sure hope you love this too. And if it give you cause to doubt me, hope you always think about me. And if you think I will find another, it ain't true. Keep the home fire burning while I'm gone. I'll be back to fan the flame, it won't be long. Just a while and then I'm back where I belong. Keep the home fire burning while I'm gone. All kinds of trouble, you know what to do. I know you take care of yourself. There's a box of 22s, and my pistol's always loaded, and another in the sock drawer, just in case they think I'm gone. Lord, I know I've done some evil in my time, but that don't mean there ain't no goodness in this evil heart of mine. And it don't mean that I can't see the light. So while I'm out here fighting this good fight, just keep the home fire burning while I'm gone. I'll be back to fan the flame, it won't be long. I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to, then I'm home. Keep the home fire burning while I'm gone. Keep the home fire burning. Won't you keep it burning, honey, while I'm gone?
working alone has its advantages and its disadvantages. The problem is with on the disadvantage side, and in the spirit of keeping this channel authentic and not YouTubing it up to where it looks like everything's perfect and I'm an incredible builder and all this. The truth is that, you know, mistakes are made. I make a lot of mistakes because I'm learning as I'm going. And some of these mistakes can be, fatal mistakes if not caught. One I came very close to making a tragic mistake on was in measuring the footings and making sure that everything was square. Somehow I got out of square by about 6 inches, and so I had to go back after all this pouring, and I realized that things are not as they should be. So now, putting in the ICFs, I have to compensate for the disadvantages that are happening based on my miscalculations. That's just what happens. It is what it is, and I've learned. The second mistake in all of this that was a problem on the drawings is the drawings called for 16-inch wide, 10-inch deep footers for this. Well, the ICFs are 13.5 inches wide, so that doesn't give you a lot of room to play with when you're doing this. So, as I stated earlier in some of the other videos, the shop is a place where if I'm going to make mistakes, let it be there and not on the main house. The takeaway from that is that I'm going to be doing 24-inch wide footers, 10 inches deep for the house. That way I've got plenty of room to square that up. And plus I'll have the room for batter boards and additional tools to help make sure that things are level. A secondary or third factor in this is the fact that the boards are warped, and I didn't catch some of those warps, so things got a little bit wonky. Again, it's a learning curve, and slowly but surely I am learning. But we'll just keep it going and we'll see what we get. Well, mistakes do happen, and we had a pretty big one here during the ICF process. It turns out that the company that I bought the ICFs from gave me 12-inch blocks instead of 16-inch high blocks. They were a special order for a different customer, and there was no labeling that indicated it's different. So the guys that loaded it originally didn't realize that they were the wrong blocks. And so they also didn't have any in store. That's how I came up 34 blocks short. And so now, in order to rectify this, I have to disassemble the entire ICF foundation walls that I had just completed, take those apart, and then I have to drive 40 minutes up, 40 minutes back to make the exchange. So I'm bringing an order down of the new blocks, the ones that I actually needed, and I'm returning the special order blocks to them. So this is a process of deconstruction and construction. I won't bore you with filming that process because it's the same thing as putting them together, just probably a little bit more stressful and a lot more swearing. So either way, today is going to be disassembling the walls and correcting that mistake, and then we will rebuild the walls once I get all the new blocks here. Having said all that, I will say this as a lesson learned in this, is that there's no reason for me to be upset or angry with Treasure State Concrete, as it's an honest mistake. It happens, and that goes. A lot of people in this world would find it easy to lash out and blame the people and get irate, but that does no good. You catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar. And so, I've been working with Treasure State to correct this issue. Most of the time and energy comes down on my part, but they are willing to work with me because of my attitude and being able to work with them on rectifying the situation, both financially and time-wise. So that's just a takeaway from all this. I think it pays to be kind and generous as even when you're upset by things. And the other part of that is that I've learned not to let things anger me and not to carry that. It's just a problem you got to fix, and so you find a solution. Taking down the old ICFs and returning those and getting the new ones down here to the property was a tremendous amount of work yesterday, and it took me all day long to do it. Probably ended up giving myself a tad bit of heat exhaustion in the process, but I spared to the redo of the rebuild. But as you can see behind me, I got it completed in one day, and managed to get it all squared up and into place. So that's something I'm pretty happy about all the way around. Came out pretty nicely, and it looks pretty solid. Now I just have to go around and run the laser level and see how level it is and where I need to shim it up before I add foam along the edges to secure it to the footers. All right, with that leveled up, now we're ready for concrete. We'll do some shoring up. I still have to put the bracing in around it and brace this up, and then we'll call for a load of concrete.